All said, there seems to be a very gendered angle to this election that continues to remain. And when we began the election, the campaign was all said to be about women's rights and women's reproductive rights. Professor Swaran Singh, do you think that maybe women did not rally behind Kamala Harris as much as they were supposed to? Did they betray her cause? Or were there other issues other than women's rights that took eminence?
I think many people believed this was a historic opportunity for United States to see the first woman and colored women occupying presidency. And in that sense, the generic imagination about US society, if one has to look at the larger picture, is still inability to accept that as a possibility of making a woman take over the presidency of United States. We remember Donald Trump had likewise also won against Hillary Clinton. Difference is that this time he also has a popular vote, not just the numbers that are likely to be in his favor in electoral college. Also, by the same insinuation is the response. There were 10 states in the United States where, along with these elections, which has president, vice president, and the House of Representatives and several gubernatorial positions in line, also 10 states were having a referendum on this right to abortion. And I think several states, as the indications are, have not favored that. So in that sense, I think it's a kind of strange picture where the leading nation shows such enormous sense of not being ready yet to allow a woman to become the first president. Of course, that's not the only reason. There are several reasons now why President Trump is getting a second term now. First of all, increasingly elections around the world have become driven by events rather than engagements. And they are spectacles rather than conversations, invariably focusing on personality rather than on issues, invariably caricaturing. And in that, I think in the global picture of democracies having high shrill, high octane speeches during elections, Donald Trump has kind of been on the lead in that sense. There's a recently published book called The Rise and Fall of Neoliberal Order by 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐢𝐝, which talks about 2016 election of Donald Trump initiating the end of the neoliberal order in that sense. And we see that almost all major Western nations are focusing on protectionism, which is not just limited to economic imaginations, but even in terms of United States reluctance to deploy armed forces abroad and provide political leadership to the world. So there's an inward-looking kind of imagination that one visualizes from these elections. They also became unusually interesting because of high focus on security. There was assassination attempts, but much more fear of what if Donald Trump was or is, if I can still use that, is to lose that election. You would see that American media have had articles talking about possibility of a second civil war. So the paranoia of that kind led to all kinds of arrangements from, even getting sharpshooters ready, or even election staff being trained in terms of de-escalation, how to deal with disruption by hoodlums, how to report crime if it happens, and so on. Even businesses were trying to protect themselves by fencing their properties. And that perhaps made Donald Trump, during the time he was casting his vote, say that he does not believe in violence, which many people thought was simply to sway the on-the-fence voters instead of really making a serious commitment. That question is becoming much less relevant. And third, also the kind of money spent in these elections. So what I'm saying is, when you say why Kamala Harris couldn't become president, it's not simply conservatism on issues of gender mainstreaming. I think together two candidates raised about, I think, $4.2 billion. Kamala Harris is supposed to have raised much more money, about 3.2 or 2.3 billion dollars, and she spent about 1.9. So enormous amount of money, and bulk of that money going to advertisements. Bulk of that money has gone into advertisements. So elections are more like spectacle to sway emotions. So if there was last time this whole narrative of building the wall and Mexico to pay for it, this time it was phone calls and end of war in Ukraine and West Asia. That kind of high octane intoxication is what makes the voters unable perhaps to look at real issues and respond to the real issues, whether it is the increasing polarization or inflation and other issues like abortion rights and so on. Those issues seem to become less significant. For example, last 2 weeks we saw suddenly this issue of democracy under threat and becoming much more visible than the economic issues of deceleration and so on. So the spectacle swaying voters, disallowing them to take serious decisions in terms of what they want to see in terms of outcomes of these elections. We are now also aware that perhaps Senate will also be controlled by Republicans. So this is going to be an era where we will see Donald Trump too. Putin is happy, Xi Jinping is happy, I think India is happy too. Let's see if United States is also going to be happy. Thank you.